It's time for Mornings at 8 with Jonathan Mark on AM 1480 WLEA.
Well, yes, it is time for Mornings at 8, and here we are around 7 minutes after 8 o'clock on a Tuesday morning. Tuesday, Christmas Eve, 2019. Wow, just a few more hours and here we go. You know, it's funny. Brian had in his news that high-speed chase, 80 miles an hour through Almond, and as it turns out, I was in Hornell. As that chase went right past our house. 80 miles an hour in Almond. Well, that must have been a kind of exciting. 80 miles an hour, 100, 115. Wow. And I was in Hornell, of course. Well, you know, as I said, it's Christmas Eve 2019. And I was talking to my wife this morning. And I said, if I say Christmas 2019, what do you think of? And she looked at me, and the way that she looks at me a lot, I know that look. And she says, huh? What? And it's Christmas tomorrow, 2019. What do you think of? And she said, well, what do you mean? I said, it's 2019. Christmas 2019. Now, 2019 what? 2019 years. And you could be in North America, you could be in South America, or Europe, or Asia, or Africa, or Australia, or anywhere on the planet. The year is 2019. And the point being, based on what? Why is it 2019? Let's see if we could figure this out. It's based on an event which we will celebrate in less than 24 hours. And it is undoubtedly the most profound effect ever in the history of humanity. And we will celebrate it in less than 24 hours. And think of this. Kingdoms have come and gone. Nations have come and gone. Empires have come and gone. But it's still 2019. Important people have come and gone. Events, everything. But it's still, no matter where you are, it's 2019. As I said, it's a pretty exciting and wonderful, absolutely incredible, extraordinary time. That's right, Christmas Eve 2019. I just thought I'd mention that. Okay, speaking of that, let me see, very much along the same lines, Paul Harvey, an incredible broadcaster. Paul Harvey, WLEA carried Paul Harvey for many, many, many years. And in my book, he's the greatest broadcaster ever. Ever. There has never been anybody like Paul Harvey. And Paul Harvey spoke of a world, of a culture that was comprised of hard work, determination, self-reliance, honesty, integrity, patriotism, and faith. Unfortunately, at least in popular culture, all that is rapidly fading. All you have to do is follow the news, get on social media, go to websites, read this, read that, listen to this, listen to that, and all those qualities are fading for a complex variety of reasons. But there was Paul Harvey speaking of that world. And he did leave a very strong legacy. There were a number of really memorable broadcasts. And one, in my book, one of the most memorable, is one he did on Christmas Eve. And while he did not write it, as a matter of fact, he didn't write it. And he said that he looked for a long time, he did research, and he could never find out who wrote this thing. But somebody wrote it. And he recorded it, and he broadcasted it. And it's an amazing piece, absolutely amazing piece. It's called The Man and the Birds, and here it is.
The man I'm talking about was not a Scrooge now. He was a kind, a decent, a mostly good man, generous to his family and upright in his dealings with other men, but he just did not believe in all of that incarnation stuff which the churches proclaim at Christmas time. It just did not make sense, and he was too honest to pretend otherwise. He could not swallow the Jesus story about God coming to earth as a man. He told his wife, "I'm truly sorry to distress you, but I'm just not going with you to church this Christmas Eve." He said he'd feel like a hypocrite, that he'd much rather just stay home, but that he would wait up for them. So he stayed, and they went to the midnight service. Now, shortly after the family drove away in the car, snow began to fall. He went to the window to watch the flurries getting heavier and heavier. Then he went back to his fireside chair, began to read his newspaper. Minutes later, he was startled by a thudding sound, and then another, then yet another. At first, he thought somebody must be throwing snowballs against the living room window. But when he went to the front door to investigate, he found a flock of birds huddled out there miserably in the snow. They had been caught in the storm. In a desperate search for shelter, they had tried to fly through his large landscape window. That was what had been making the sound. Well, he couldn't let those poor creatures just lie there and freeze. So he remembered the barn where his children stabled their pony. That would provide a warm shelter. All he would have to do is direct the birds into that shelter. Quickly, he put on a coat and galoshes, and he tramped through the deepening snow to the barn, and he opened the doors wide. And inside the barn, he turned on a light so the birds would know the way in. But the birds did not come in. So he figured that food would entice them. He went back into the house and fetched some breadcrumbs and sprinkled those on the snow, making a trail of breadcrumbs to the yellow-lighted, wide-open doorway of the stable. But to his dismay, the birds ignored the breadcrumbs. The birds just continued to flop around helplessly in the snow. He tried catching them. He could not. He tried shooing them into the barn by walking around them, waving his arms, but instead they scattered in every direction except into the warm, lighted barn. And that's when he realized that they were afraid of him. They were afraid of him. To him, he reasoned, "I'm a strange, terrifying creature. If only I could think of some way to let them know that they can trust me, that I'm not trying to hurt them but to help them." But how? Any move he made tended to frighten them and confuse them. They just would not follow. They would not be led or shooed because they feared him. And he thought to himself, if only I could be a bird now, if I could be a bird and mingle with them and speak their language and tell them not to be afraid, then I could show them the way to the safe, warm barn. But I would have to be one of them, wouldn't I? So they could see and hear and understand. At that moment, the church bells began to ring. The sound reached his ears above the sounds of the wind, and he stood there listening to the bells. Adeste Fidelis. Listening to the bells pealing the glad tidings of Christmas, and he sank to his knees in the snow. Paul Harvey, I hope for you and those you love, this will be a wonderfully Merry Christmas.
Wow. More than happy to cede the microphone to Paul Harvey. It doesn't get any better than that. That is the best. Yeah. Wowzer. Yeah, he was good. He was really, really good. And as I said, he did admit that he didn't write that, and he never found out who wrote that thing. But whoever wrote it, man, he could not have delivered it any better than Paul Harvey, whoever wrote it. That's just an extraordinary piece. Okay, let me see here. How much? Okay, we can go like this. How about NORAD tracks Santa? That's right. This is the 64th year. It started in 1955. This is the 64th year that NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command, is tracking Santa Claus in his big, long journey around the planet. And boy, this thing has gotten more and more complex each year. You could check out the site. It's noradsanta.org, N-O-R-A-D, Santa.org. And each year it gets more and more complex. As a matter of fact, this year, who's involved with it this year? In addition to NORAD, we have Google, Microsoft, Hewlett-Packard, and Bing. I mean, all these big heavy hitters are taking part in this thing. And if you've never accessed NORAD Treks Santa, noradsanta.org, you really ought to check it out. It's on, oh man, where is it here? Boy, oh boy, all kinds of apps, or I think that's what they're called. All kinds of platforms, maybe that's what they're called. Anyway, this is really something. It has maps. It has a bunch of background. It's really, really entertaining. And you can track and see where Santa is at any one time. Now, also, I have a phone number to pass along. How do you like that? There are, the history, it was a mistake. Maybe you've heard this, maybe you haven't. But a Sears store somewhere in Colorado placed an ad in a newspaper. It was the Colorado Springs newspaper, The Gazette. And they wanted children to call Santa Claus. And they placed a phone number in there. And it was a misprint. That's right. So it was a misprint. And calls came in to the Colorado Springs Continental Air Defense Command because one digit was misprinted. So this Lieutenant Colonel, Harry Shoup, took the phone call. And the child, a girl, asked, "Are you Santa Claus?" And he, quick thinking, he said, "Well, yeah, okay, I'm Santa Claus." And that's how the whole thing started, 1955. So this thing has been around for a very, 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 very long time. And there are, let me see, 1,500 volunteers. I have the stuff here. Let me see. 1,500 volunteers are fielding phone calls to Santa Claus. Last year, they had 140,000 phone calls. And the website, NORAD Treks, noradsanta.org, 15 million hits on this website last year alone. And the thing is only up for a couple of days. 15 million hits. And let me see if you have a pen handy here. If you want your little one, or maybe you, who knows, want to call Santa? The number is 1-877-HI-NORAD. H-I, NORAD, N-O-R-A-D, which is 1-877-446-6723. 1-877-446-6723, and you could be hooked up with any one of a number of these volunteers. How cool is that? I think that's very, very cool. Very good PR thing, too. I mean, a really good PR thing, so you might possibly give that a shot. And when we get back after the break, I'm going to give you a recipe.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Eddie Garcia.
In the NFL on Monday Night Football, the Packers hand the Vikings their first home loss of the year, 23-10 the final. In the process, Green Bay also wraps up the NFC North title with that victory over their division rivals. Aaron Jones led the Green Bay offense with 154 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. Green Bay's defense held Minnesota just 139 total yards. Packers are 12-3 and right now the number 2 seed in the NFC playoffs. Minnesota falls to 10-5 and is the 6th seed right now in the NFC playoffs. In the NBA, checking games of note, the 76ers beat the Pistons 125-109. Tobias Harris, 35 points. Ben Simmons, a triple-double, 16 points, 13 rebounds, 17 assists in the win for Philadelphia. Overtime for the Pacers to get by the Raptors, 120-115. Heat take care of the Jazz, 107-104. Miami has the best home record in the NBA right now at 13-1. Nuggets over the Suns, 113-111. Rockets beat the Kings, 113-104. James Harden, 34 points for Houston.
I'm Charles Payne, and this is the Fox Business Report. Stock futures are trending higher ahead of the opening bell today. Christmas Eve means a shortened day on Wall Street. This after the Dow hit a record yet again on Monday, rising 96 points. The Nasdaq and S&P 500 also hitting all-time highs. Shares of Boeing jumping on Monday after the company said its CEO has resigned. This amid the ongoing trouble with its grounded 737 MAX jets. The Security and Exchange Commission opening an investigation into BMW. People familiar say the SEC looking into whether the German luxury car maker manipulated sales figures. Speaking of sales figures, the Great White Way making big bucks this week. Broadway's season-to-date sales totals passing the $1 billion mark. Hot shows right now are The West Side Story and Christmas Carol. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Tom Graham, invested in you.
Guys, waking up over and over to pee is not okay. You can reduce those nighttime bathroom trips with the ingredients in Super Beta Prostate P3 Advanced. You can try a full 30-day bottle free. Just pay shipping and handling. No strings attached, no obligations, and no commitments to buy. Call 1-800-424-7125. 1-800-424-7125. 1-800-424-7125.
The angel said to them, "Do not be afraid, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which will be to all people. For there is born to you this day in the city of David a Savior, who is Christ the Lord." And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men." Merry Christmas from the Ryan Agency.
Today at the Simmons Rockwell Nissan stores in Horseheads and Hornell, you'll find new 2019 Nissan Sentra SV models with alloy wheels, cruise control, and Bluetooth for only $15,999. Or new 2019 Nissan Titan S Crew Cab 4x4s with a 5.6-liter V8, rear view monitor, power windows, and cruise, now only $32,499. See the savings online at Simmons-Rockwell.com.
Okay, and back we are. I will give you a recipe here. Now, Brian was telling me that one time Kevin Doran spoke to Paul Harvey. Now, what's the story behind that?
Okay, Kevin said that he was. This was in the early 70s when Kevin was also working at Hornell High School, and he was calling Paul Harvey to, I believe, to tell Paul Harvey about a positive essay that one of the students wrote about President Nixon, which would have been rare at the time.
I was going to say, that's pretty rare.
And he thought he'd feed it to Paul Harvey, so Kevin called up Paul Harvey Radio in Chicago and was expecting the secretary to answer, and he was surprised that Paul Harvey did, but they had a nice little talk, Kevin said.
Huh. Wow. How do you like that? He answered his own phone. That's kind of rare in this business. Wow. Huh, boy, Paul Harvey, you can't top him. He was the best. I mean, there's Rush Limbaugh, right, of course, Sean Hannity, Brian Kilmeade, all that, but there was nobody like Paul Harvey.
Very unique style.
There was nobody like Paul Harvey. As I said, his world is rapidly fading.
And I don't think he based it on anybody else.
No, he was unique.
A totally original style there.
Yeah, he was. There was nobody like him. Okay, well, a recipe, right. Santa and his reindeer are going to be doing a lot of traveling. I mean, they're doing a lot. They got to go all the way around the world. That's a whole bunch of running around. And Santa apparently has some nonstop energy, but his reindeer need a lot of energy too, right? And how do they get it? Well, this recipe has been in my wife's family for a number of years. Her mother did it. I believe her grandmother too. I'm not quite sure. But Patty did with her children. And here's how it goes. Now, you need a child, a little child present when you make this recipe. If the little child tell you it won't work. So you need a little child there. What you do is you take oatmeal, maybe, a quarter of a cup. Like the instant oatmeal in the packets, right? You take a little bit of oatmeal and you mix it with, here's the secret ingredient, glitter. you take oatmeal and glitter, and you mix it up in a container, right? And then you sprinkle it right by the main entrance of your house or apartment, right? And you put it right by your main entrance, maybe the front door, maybe a side door, maybe a back door, but you sprinkle it down. And when Santa and the reindeer come, as Santa is putting the presents under the tree, his reindeer need a break, right? Because it's a long trip, all in one night. So the reindeer will go down and eat this energy food. And it works. It works every time. So while Santa is doing what he's doing, the reindeer are having a welcome break, a little bit of energy food, and away they go again to the next house. And here's just a hint. This isn't necessary, but just a hint, okay? A cooking tip. When the little ones get up in the morning, assuming that they ever go to sleep, when the little ones get up in the morning, if by some strange chance there happen to be some scuff marks around where this energy food is, a few little scuff marks here and there, that would be proof positive that the reindeer had been there. Right? So in the morning, you would take the little ones outside, maybe 5 years old, 4 years old, maybe 6, I don't know, however old, and they see that there are scuff marks. They'd say, wow, hey, the reindeer were really here. It worked. And I'll tell you, it works every time. So there you go. Reindeer energy food. You heard it right here and nowhere else on WLEA. That's right. Well, it is Christmas Eve, 2019, and certainly hope that everybody has a very pleasant, enjoyable, wondrous Christmas. And I will see you again on Thursday at 8:05, and we'll be back to abnormal. Okay, I'll see you Thursday. Bye. Merry Christmas.